Welcome to Elemental Fun, a historical and cultural look of the elements of the periodic table. Hello and welcome to Elemental Fun. My name is Grace.
My name is Cindy.
And today we're going to talk about a element that is known for its smell, but we'll get further into that. What is it, Cindy?
Sulfur.
Sulfur.
That's a very sexy sulfur.
Well, it's so nice and
because rotten eggs are so
and that
sexy.
powdery yellow hue is just sexy.
It's what you
Kinda,
want. Not really.
Sulfur. People have known about it forever.
It's true.
There was no person that was like, Eureka, sorry, Humphrey Davy, you only get partial credit for this one, not full credit.
Yeah, we've known about it for a long time. The name comes from either Sanskrit, which means, which is Sulvari, or Shulbari, which is the enemy of copper. Which apparently doesn't like copper very much.
Or it's also Latin, sulfurium.
Sulfurium. Or I found another one that said that could be from the Arabic sufra, which is yellow.
Probably all of them.
Probably. I mean, they're all, anyone's a good choice.
Yeah.
But yeah, so salt, and you see it's spelled two different ways because, English versus English. American versus European and English.
English
is English.
That actually is a very accurate.
It's true.
Yeah. No,
Which team are you on, English or English?
People are like, why is this spelled differently? Why are there more exceptions to the rules than not? I'm like, you got me. I'm sorry. Actually, it's because we're a hodgepodge. We've talked about
true.
that, I think.
Yeah, we have.
Like,
but the correct spelling is Sulfer, not Pher. But they all decided to be like, that's the one. All the chemists.
I don't know why pH became a thing anyway.
That's weird. But so there's lots of different, we talked about allotropes before, different forms of an element, but the most common form, of course, is the yellow powder or crystals. Generally found in volcanoes and hot springs, right? Which is a lot of times you go to hot springs, it's like, the aroma.
No, actually,
so
there's one near here called Soul Duck, and it actually
Soul Duck.
Soul Duck.
Please tell me it's spelled Soulduck.
Solduc.
That's not fun.
It's there's actually a really nice Native American story behind it, that it's a dragon sleeping in the mountains.
Ooh.
And like he breathes fire and warms up the springs.
That's cool.
But we love to go there, and so does everyone from around the world, because when Shane and I are there, we're like, I don't understand what languages are being Shane's like,
strange things.
What language is that? I'm like, I don't know.
Got no clue. It's not English or English.
Some type of Asian language. No, but it's a nice one. But yeah, it definitely has that tangy smell.
So, and that the sulfur itself actually doesn't smell.
Right.
Which is kind of crazy. It's just all these other compounds that we'll talk about that have these different smelling properties because of. Remember that you have an element, and then it combines with something else, new and wonderful properties, different from the originals.
Right.
So, it is one of the few elements that's found in its pure form. So you actually can find sulfur all on its own in nature. But
basically, culturally, it's been around for a long time. It's mentioned 15 times in the Bible.
That's right.
But it's not really called sulfur as much as it is called brimstone.
It's what destroyed Sodom and Gomorrah.
Yes. You will find brimstone mentioned throughout the Bible, from Genesis all the way to Revelations, and in Psalm even.
Yeah, they know that it's like there's no other element that's mentioned nearly as much as that.
And it's always, accompanying like the burning of hell, or, like Cindy said, Sodom and Gomorrah. The quote is, the Lord rained down burning brimstone on Sodom and Gomorrah, which we've talked about Sodom and Gomorrah when we talked about salt, because Lot's wife,
all right,
they were fleeing Sodom and Gomorrah, and she turned into a pillar of salt, which
odd.
Don't know why. But yeah, and the lake of fire in hell in Revelations,
Right.
is fire
And
and
sulfur.
brimstone.
Right.
And I will go more into brimstone and the cultural aspect of that if you want me to, or we can back up a little bit
we
first.
can. I don't know. We can. Well, we can do that stuff later. But I do have a little bit of the history, like before you get into the details of it.
Mm-hmm.
In the ancient Greeks, they used it as a fumigant.
Mm-hmm.
So they even back then. It was mined near Mount Etna in Sicily.
Yep.
And used in bleaching cloth and preserving wine, and it's still used in preserving wine today.
Yes, that actually sometimes your beer or your wine can have kind of that stinky rotten egg smell.
Because they burn sulfur dioxide, and silicon's gonna be the next one. And it's absorbed by the wet clothes to bleach it, or absorbed by the grape juice to help preserve it.
Yeah.
So that was interesting.
No. And what's funny is that so real quick with religion, I'm just going to go into religion.
Just go right in there.
That while the Greeks used it as a fumigant, the Greek Orthodox Church, they burned sulfur as a purification to ward off bad, evil spirits, saying that the smell is ironically the breath of God. So,
wow, God has got breath. Woo! Breath.
Yeah. Here's a mint. But then, it turned into an adjective of a type of Christian preacher that focuses on damnation.
Oh,
you hear
right.
that fire and brimstone.
Right.
And the term fire and brimstone came from the King James version of the Bible.
Okay.
When they started calling it brimstone. And in 1670, a Puritan preacher, Thomas Vincent, he penned the book Fire and Brimstone, quoting Psalm 11:6 after witnessing the Great Fire of London in 1666.
Okay.
So he saw that big old fire and he was like, "What? I'm gonna write this story." And if you read up about the Great Fire of London, it's really depressing because
What was a big fire?
well, okay. Let me yes. No, but what's really depressing is back in the day, they said there were only 6 deaths. Because they didn't count people that were middle class or lower.
Oh, so only high profile deaths.
Yes.
Got it.
So, while it burned down like most of London,
Right.
only 6
people died. That's
Huzzah!
amazing.
So,
Terrible.
yeah. So I can go more into, but it's also mentioned and referenced in the in Islamic culture in their Bible as well, the Quran.
Oh, okay.
So,
it's pervasive in religion.
Yeah.
A lot.
And some archaeologists in 1924 went searching for Sodom and Gomorrah.
Oh.
And on the south end of, oh no, I didn't write
place.
it down. What's that lake? That's really.
Don't ask me geography.
No, it's like religion and geography.
No, yeah, that's not my cup of tea.
Whoops. Anyways, they found a place that had a lot of sulfur near Jerusalem, not in Jerusalem, but
near.
and
In the region.
In the region, everyone that's knows their Bible stuff. It's the lake that I'm failing. Oh, I'm failing. Bible camp failed me. Anyway, so they were like, this could be it, but all they found was just like a big amount of sulfur. So it also could be where a volcano or a hot spring. Who knows? So, yeah. So I just wanted to go. That's kind of older stuff. So it also used 2,000 years ago in gunpowder in China.
Yeah, it's still using gunpowder.
Victoria era, it was used as a laxative and kids tonic when it was mixed with treacle. Treacle?
I think it's treacle.
Which is a syrup.
Oh.
Basically, they mixed syrup and sulfur together and helped you poop.
Oh. Your body's like, what the?
Well, it is Victorian time, so they're also
true.
using leeches and saying it's just God's plan that you're gonna die.
You can't do anything about it.
So there's only so much.
They use ancient Greek fire, which is a flamethrower. They use sulfur, which I thought was kind of awesome.
Sulfur, that smell, it really does kind of invoke like a thing, and you're like, oh no.
Mm-hmm.
That's why skunks are so successful.
It's true, because skunks have it. So we'll go into the smells then, since we've kind of
Let's just do it.
vocalized. Started reading something instead of saying what I wanted to say. is going into the smellings, that we have the different ones. So the characteristic rotten egg smell
Yeah.
is from hydrogen sulfide, H2S. But what's interesting about that smell is that it's very strong, but then it vanishes because it actually deadens your sense of smell,
Ooh.
which is not good because it's also very toxic. It's a deadly gas that could kill you.
But that's not what they put in our natural gas, right? Not that one specifically.
So that one is it's these things called mercaptans, which is organosulfur compounds. So not hydrogen sulfide, right? That's added to natural gas to make it smell so that you can smell leaks and stuff.
Right.
And that's also what gives skunks their odor.
So
Wouldn't it be terrible if skunks were farting out hydrogen sulfide?
they would not be alive. And they don't fart it out.
Well, with exude it, That's what everybody
So
thinks.
with natural gas, it actually makes me think of that Friends episode where Ross is trying to flirt with the pizza delivery girl. And he's like, so, wood fire pizza? She's like, gas. He's like, gas. They put the smell in. She's like, what? He's like,
Wait,
they put that
smell into
the gas. And they actually didn't start doing that until, so they were kind of flirting with the idea of putting a smell in natural gas so that you could tell if it's leaking. And they were like, blah, blah, blah. But there was this school in New London, Texas that exploded because they had a natural gas leak. And they
didn't know about it.
There's a really good podcast on it in stuff you missed in history class.
Oh, right.
And basically they were kind of like taking it from the schools, like kind of like taking it from a line that wasn't theirs and funneling it into the school.
So they're like getting cable from your neighbor's house.
Yeah, kind of getting natural gas from your neighbor.
All right.
And there had been a leak for a long time, and kids were having headaches.
All right.
And, but then one day after school, the shop class, there was a spark.
Ooh.
And it just destroyed it. And after that is when they started going, okay, we actually need to put this smell in the natural gas. And that was in 1937, which makes me really sad because when I saw Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them, that takes place in the 1920s. And they're like, was it a gas leak? I didn't smell anything. And I was like, of course you didn't. You didn't smell it because they didn't put the smell in the gas yet, not till the late 1930s. So when you are a history nerd, oh my gosh, the more of a nerd you are, the more disappointed you are.
Yeah.
I bet every
it's very
time
hard
you
to suspend your disbiousf on certain things because you know too much.
Yeah. I bet anytime you watch a dolphin movie.
It's terrible. You're like, well, that's not okay.
You're like, I'm going to pretend that this is a different planet.
Where this could actually happen. Thanks for not doing any research. Okay. And other smells.
I just spat out my coffee a little bit.
So we have those mercaptans, but then the thing
Captain Mercaptan.
Theater nerd.
Oh, sorry.
So what there's compounds also give sulfur compounds also give garlic their odor. Onions is why you cry, and asparagus.
Wait, the sulfur is why you cry when you chop.
Yeah, there's a compound in there that's a sulfur compound apparently. That's what makes you cry.
Dang it, sulfur!
And if you ever have eaten asparagus and then pee smells weird,
It smells so bad.
that's also from that. Yeah.
Is it because it's mixing with like the nitrogen in your pee, or is it
No, it's just the compounds that have the smell. Remember, because that sulfur doesn't have its own, it doesn't smell. It's the compound when it's combined with other things that gives it an odor. But you can have many different odors, not just rotten eggs.
Look at that! I didn't know that it really is the smelliest element.
Not
smelliest
element in compounds.
Well, but if
when
it
combined.
didn't have the element, you wouldn't have the smell.
True.
So it is due to the element.
True. So let's see. They also other uses. They use it in vulcanization of black rubber, fungicides.
Which
we already
actually
talked about
made
the
the
black powder.
Goodyear guy go broke. When he had figured out he'd dropped some like sulfur into like or some rubber into I don't know. He was doing some type of experiment, and he discovered that. He was like, "Ha!" But like he couldn't get it off the ground when he was
Oh.
alive. I read, and so he kind of died trying to make that dream happen.
That's unfortunate.
Yeah, it is.
Let's see. Most of the sulfur is used to make a sulfuric acid, which is an important chemical in the manufacture of Western civilizations, right? So sulfate is used, it's the most in use to make phosphoric acid, which is used to make phosphates for fertilizers. That's one of their big things. It's used in silver polish, a lot in the production of pesticides and herbicides.
That's interesting, though, because when we talked about silver, wasn't it the sulfur in the air that
tarnishes it?
Tarnishes it.
No, I don't think it's the sulfur in the air. Usually some kind of oxidation.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Oh, maybe wait. I thought it was.
Ladies
and gentlemen, please go back and listen to our podcast on silver.
And see what we can't remember.
We did that one a long time ago.
I know. It was a while ago.
Just so you audience know, we've been really bad about getting our podcasts out at a decent time.
Consistently.
So, years have gone by. So
Since the first one.
Yeah. So, yeah. We don't remember things.
No. But there's not that much sulfur in the air.
No, but remember because it was lit by candles. I don't know.
I don't remember.
I don't know. Somebody
you
go
keep
back.
Looking.
All the people that listen to this, all of you out there, all 5 of you.
Hey,
let us know. Contact us at elementalfunpodcast@gmail.com and tell me what I don't remember
about silver and sulfur.
About silver and sulfur. But anyways, apparently it also polishes silver.
Yeah, it's used in silver polish. They use it for making pesticides, and this is interesting. It's on conventional and organic farms, so you can use sulfur as an organic pesticide.
Because it is organic. It's from the earth.
Well, yeah, but I think it's just kind of funny because some of the compounds can be quite toxic. That's used. Because the sulfur itself is non-toxic, but sulfur and sulfate are non-toxic, but like carbon disulfide, hydrogen sulfide, sulfur dioxide are very toxic, and can hydrogen sulfide, which is that rotten egg smell, can cause death by respiratory paralysis, which is terrible. And what's interesting is they so for the pesticides and herbicides, they found that it's really good at doing that, and they can do it on organic farms, but it is actually a lung irritant for workers, right? So again, some of these things. And then they started looking at it and like, maybe we should look at the surrounding areas. And so they did, and kids within a half mile of it had symptoms and things. And so they're like within a kilometer, if it is there, they've noticed increases in symptoms were related to that and bad effects. So they're asking the FDA and stuff to look into more of those issues. Sulfites are used to bleach paper and preservatives for foods. It's in surfactants and detergents. Calcium sulfate, which is gypsum, was mined in 100 million tons per year for cement and plaster. So it's a big part of, again, what I said before, the Western civilizations, right, using it for that kind of stuff. And then, you mentioned the fumigant part. The ancient people used to use it for fumigants. Ancient till even the late 19th century, so in 1889, they used it they burned sulfur and alcohol in homes with smallpox, scarlet fever, diphtheria, and measles to try to clean them out.
That was their version of a vaccine.
Well, since they didn't have that yet, that was at least something. Trying to kill the stuff. But it is really important in biology, actually, even though you have some quite toxic compounds that come from it. But sulfates that in the soil and or in seawater are taken up by plants and algae, and they are used to make sulfur compounds are used to make 2 of the essential amino acids needed to make proteins, cysteine and methionine. And what's really important is that methionine is one of the most important amino acids, because methionine is the one that starts. It's always the start one, like the start amino acid to make a protein. You cannot make the protein unless you have methionine.
So you need sulfur.
Yeah. Otherwise you can't make proteins at all. Which I thought was kind of interesting. They didn't go into that. They just mentioned those 2. But there are 3 different things that can stop a protein from being made. and I'm not going to go into the detail of the chemistry of it,
Please don't.
but there's only one start one, and that's methionine.
Okay.
So kind of important. And it's needed as coenzyme, a lot of enzymes that need help. So there's these other things that go and help an enzyme do what it needs to do, and they're called coenzymes. And sulfur is a good one of that.
If you hear the dog in the background.
Yeah, that's my old dog, Kylie. She's a bit insistent in her old age, and she wants us to play with her, but she doesn't really play, so it's very confusing.
Just so you know.
Yeah, and so we have 140 grams of sulfur in our bodies, and we take in about 1 gram a day.
Yeah, read that. Mostly in our protein, right? Mostly in the meat, right?
Probably.
That's what I
didn't
read. Did you know that sulfur could save the planet?
No, because I know that sulfur could kill the planet through acid rain and such.
Well, yes, we will. Okay, let's do the negative and then the positive.
All right.
Acid rain.
Acid rain, terrible. So when coal and unpurified oil are burned, because it's all dead things that have been compacted over millions of years, and they're full of sulfur, as we are. When they're burned, it sends out basically silicon dioxide or sulfur. God, I'm really gonna mess that up all the time.
You really
sulfur
want to talk about
dioxide.
silicon,
I really do. Apparently.
Not
Next
yet.
one.
Sulfur dioxide.
Sulfur dioxide. That's what goes up into the atmosphere, combines with the stuff up there, and then comes down as acid rain. And so that rain, if you've ever seen pictures and stuff, you can see like statues that have been eroded away, trees die because everything has a small amount of pH range that it likes to be in, and outside of that, bad things happen.
Well, and anything that's made with not a calcium, but there's that whole problem too about the
calcium carbonate.
the calcium carbonate.
Right, but that comes from the oceans becoming more acidic because of
acid rain.
Not necessarily acid rain for the oceans, but the changing of the climate. And
there actually is there's two identical statues. One is in somewhere in the desert, and
there's certain areas that are
one
much
that's
worse.
in east. I think it's in northeastern United States, either New York or possibly maybe in DC. But they were identical, and one of them now is just worn completely out. What do you think it is, Cindy? The desert or the more humid, rainy climate?
The more humid, rainy climate.
You are correct.
I'm so smart.
So acid rain is caused. It's made.
Right, and
because
the
of
areas that are more industrialized will have higher amounts of
LA and London have and that's the idea of smog as well comes from that burn off and sulfur.
Sulfur. But yeah, so it's it also another reason why it kills lakes in particular is that it actually makes toxic aluminum salts soluble, and so therefore they get taken up by the organisms and they die.
Well,
so it's not even directly killed by the sulfur itself, it's the effects of it after.
Right, because sulfur is, isn't it one of those that wants to bond with oxygen usually?
Yeah, it will. You're commonly found like sulfur dioxide, sulfates are all sulfur and oxygen.
Yeah.
Sulfites are sulfur and oxygen.
So
it's a common one.
He likes to kind of react with other people. And it doesn't usually have pretty outlook. But there's one tiny silver lining in this acid rain cloud.
Oh, tell me.
Some people think that sulfur can save the planet. The compound dimethyl sulfide, DMS, made in short by plankton, it can actually cool the planet. It has the ability that when it goes up into the atmosphere, I'm not sure exactly the science behind it, but they said that it can actually cool our ever warming planet. But it's the plankton. It's not acid rain that's gonna do it. Sorry, mankind.
Again,
you won't save the planet. It will be the algae and the plankton.
Well, if we don't kill the plankton first.
Dang it.
There's that.
You just took my silver lining and threw it out the window.
I'm sorry.
Now it's just an acid rain cloud.
Well, that's one of those. Will the balance of how much acid rain we produce versus how much of the DMS is produced?
It's a big could.
Yeah.
It was a tiny silver lining.
Well, it's one of those.
Glimmer
It's
of hope.
important things to look at because if we see those, and then we can say like, oh, maybe this could help. Maybe that will end up developing or figuring out something that will actually be able to work.
Right.
Or we could just stop killing the planet.
Or we could just, not make it.
Oh, did you know why your farts smell?
Because they have sulfur in them?
Right, because the bacteria that are in your large
Oh,
intestine
right.
releases sulfur. That's why they smell so
So
lovely.
our bacteria is farting and our
Going along with the gas that goes out.
so the bacteria farts. And those
It's not,
farts
so that's
go
not
to-
actually me. It's my bacteria.
It's like, sorry, my bacteria's been a little gaseous lately. It's the sulfur in my bacteria.
Seriously.
We didn't really talk much about this. I know no one discovered it, but we didn't really talk about like Antoine Lavoisier and Humphrey Davy. And
Can I tell you one more thing before we do that?
please do, as long as it has to talk about why my farts, I can blame them on something else.
Well,
besides
this is not your internal bacteria. This is cave bacteria now.
cave bacteria.
Cave bacteria. So there's bacteria in caves that produce special stalactites called, get it? Wait, snottites,
Oh god.
which I just loved. SNOTTITES.
Rolling my eyes.
Snottites, but they drip sulfuric acid. And it's so concentrated that if you stand underneath it, it'll burn your skin and burn holes in your clothes.
Can that be in a movie?
That would be
I wanna
amazing.
see snottites in a movie.
Totally. Then the natural dissolution of the minerals as they get what's kind of washed and washed away, new caves are carved out.
Yeah, because it's acid.
That's so cool. It's like literally dripping acid. It's so cool.
Spread
Okay.
the word, people.
So, I feel bad for Anton Lavoisier because we've talked about him before
Yeah,
too.
he was
These
like-
are all people that we've
He
talked
was
about
like,
before.
guys,
This
it's
is
an
an
element.
element in
And
1808.
And Humphrey Davy was like,
Nope.
No, it contains hydrogen.
It's hydrogen. It's not.
Sorry.
Mm-mm.
But then Louis Joseph Guy and
Gay Lussac.
and Louis Jacques
Thenard,
Thenard.
which
We're
we'll
gonna
talk
call
about
them-
next time.
Yes, we are. I'm going to call them the Louis brothers. The Louis brothers.
The
They were
Louis.
like, oh, it
Louis.
is. They proved it a year later, and I wrote, in your face, Davy.
Yeah. Davey agreed. He did.
He did.
He
He
did
had
say
to
same.
concede because he's like, oh, okay.
Okay, I guess you're right, but
So I wanted to talk about that because we didn't, and
that's true.
that was one of my notes.
Mhm.
It was super important.
Super important.
I think I've
Oh,
talked about almost
for-
everything else. I mean,
For centuries, the sulfur with mercury and salt were believed to be components of all metals and formed the basis for alchemy.
oh yeah, sulfur was huge in alchemy.
We're gonna change it all into gold.
It's
It's gold. Fine.
It's not. Nope. It's sulfur.
No. I got some stuff about natural abundance.
Tell me about it.
Okay. Again,
I
natural
love
as
my
an
notes. I
element.
wrote, it also caused the stank and skunks.
The stankin' skunks.
Sorry.
Yoo.
Tell me about how
So where we find it, obviously volcanic areas, it's very popular. Minerals such as iron pyrites, which is fool's gold, galena, gypsum, Epsom salts, and they used to pull sulfur out. They used to force superheated steam into underground deposits to melt the sulfur, and then they pump to the surface as a liquid. But nowadays, they use various different purification processes
Right.
to remove the sulfur from natural gas and oil and tar sands. But it's the 10th most abundant element in the universe and almost 3% of the Earth's mass. There's so much
it's all brimstone.
brimstone. But that much, that 3% could make 2 moons. We could have 2 moons just made of sulfur.
Like our size moons.
Yeah. I assume they said moons, so I assume they mean our moons.
That
Our
would
moons, our moon.
that would our moon.
Our moon.
That would kind of fall along with the moon made of cheese if it was yellow
Mm-hmm.
and kind of stinky.
Stinky cheese.
Does sulfur make cheese stinky?
I don't think so.
Dang it.
That's something else. Although maybe it's bacteria.
That's just
Could be.
Could be.
Um,
It is mentioned in literature, both in the Odyssey and in Dickens' Nicholas Nickleby. Also, it could be under sulfur or brimstone. And in World War I, it was used in mustard gas.
That's bad stuff.
Yeah. Tell me about it. It doesn't just make your hot dog spicy. Sorry. And when I was talking about the fire and brimstone preachers, that came during the, quote, Great Awakening in religion in 1730s and 1740s. So that's when Puritans started kind of like cracking the whip, no dancing, witchcraft.
Right.
Although that was more in the 1600s, but Great Awakening kind of came after that, but they still were fire and brimstone. But that's the only other note I had. And for some, I found some of the stuff. Enviroliteracy.org was one of the places that I found some stuff.
Cool.
About brimstone primarily.
Brimstone.
But most of it, again, we either got from. I looked in periodic tales, and he just throws the word sulfur out a lot.
Oh.
And so there wasn't really interesting, fun cultural stories with that.
Right.
I also looked in my kitty book and kind of told the same things that we talked about, but I like how I call it a kitty book.
Kitty book.
It uses bigger words than I do.
But really cool pictures.
Really nice pictures.
There's a hot sulfur springs in Colorado. Did you know that?
Specifically Sulfur Springs?
Yeah, its name is Hot Sulphur Springs, and it was founded in 1860 when white settlers discovered the sulfur springs that the Ute Indians had been using for centuries.
I like how you call it white settlers.
That's what it said in the. I just wrote it down as I read it. White settlers,
as opposed to, the indigenous people. And, no, I know it's just funny because I always think of settlers as just white people because we're always the ones that took over everything else.
Yeah,
so
I'm just being specific.
I know. I don't know. It just made me giggle. I'm not gonna lie.
I have a couple other fun things before we finish out.
Yeah.
I've got everything else.
Tell me about it.
So, crystal sulfur spontaneously changes shape according to temperature.
Fun.
Yeah. So you can melt it and then let it recrystallize, and then you just observe it as it changes over time. I'm like, that's the coolest thing ever. I'm just gonna put you there, and you're gonna change shape. Ah, so cool.
Wait, but you can't just set it there melted.
No, it recrystallizes. Like when it cools off, it recrystallizes, but then it'll change shape after it recrystallizes.
Depending on the temperature.
Right. As it cools off and recrystallizes. It's pretty cool. And so sulfur dioxide burns blue when it's burnt, which is cool.
Fun.
But liquid sulfur is a deep blood red.
Right.
But volcanoes that with sulfur appear to run blue lava.
Whoa.
Yeah. I didn't even know it was a thing. I was like, I want to see blue lava. That'd be amazing.
Well, okay. I'm like, I want to see blue. Wait, I'm next to an exploding volcano.
We don't want to see lava. No. And so then last thing is kind of a good ending to it. The positive things.
Positive things.
Positive.
The sulfur.
Right.
It's not just hell and damnation.
Hell and brimstone. Fire and damnation. Sulfur is removed from fossil fuels, which is good because it means it's not burned, right? Because if it burns into silicon dioxide and it comes down as acid rain.
Boo.
H2SO4, sulfuric acid.
You tell it, Cindy.
Right. But the refineries end up having just huge piles of elemental sulfur lying around.
Yeah.
What the heck do you do with that?
You make cool yellow brick houses.
Huffing all, puffing all.
Smelly
or something, but it won't smell.
It won't smell.
Yeah, so there you go. But so 90% of that gets turned into sulfuric acid.
So they're
other
reusing
forces.
it.
They are, but the 10% they're not is still 10 million tons a year, something like that. So it's still like ridiculous amounts. Like, what do you do with 10 million tons of sulfur? So,
again, you make a sulfur castle.
Okay, sorry, but you have to keep making them.
Make it a continually big castle.
Okay,
I would live. Okay. Dear refineries, if you make me a sulfur castle, I will live in it.
Let me find out 20 years later something bad that happens because of living
Everything's
in sulfur.
going to kill me anyway.
That's
Cindy.
true. So this guy, Jeff Pyun, Pyun, is a biochemist in the University of Arizona. So what he was looking into is making sulfur into plastics to use in thermal imaging devices and lithium sulfur batteries. So if you melt it, and you add diisopropyl benzene, because it melts really easily and is really pliable, but then you can't work with it.
Right.
It's silver. Blah. So it stabilizes the polymers, and so you get this like red plastic, and it doesn't have a smell.
Huh.
So to be able to use this and that kind of stuff, so they could use that excess sulfur and make some cool stuff out of it.
That would be nice.
So that'd be
That's
pretty cool.
a lot of leftover sulfur lying around.
And it's super simple. That was one of the things the guy said. He's like, it's pretty cool because you just like, it's not like a complicated chemical process, which a lot of this stuff is.
Yeah.
It's just like melt it, put it in there. Yay!
Sprinkle a little of the
Diisopropyl benzene.
Polybeans. I'm the comic relief in this podcast. I'm not the scientist. Well, that's cool. I hope he does do something with that.
So that would be pretty neat.
Yeah.
I think that's
about it.
Yeah.
That is your stinky, stinky sulfur.
Sulfur smelling. Mm-hmm. But remember that sulfur doesn't smell. Just the compounds.
Right. So next time someone says it smells like sulfur, say,
nope.
no, it smells like sulfur compounds. And then they'll say, you're a jerk. And you'll say,
thanks.
But I'm a smart jerk.
Exactly.
So, that's all we got, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Cindy, where can they find you?
I am at pacificmammalresearch.org on Facebook and Instagram. That's it.
At PacMam, right?
Pacmam.org. PACMAM. How about you?
Oh, thanks for asking. I was waiting.
I had cookie in my mouth.
Oh,
sorry.
I brought her a cookie. It's but it's the day between our birthdays right now.
This
so
is true.
Happy birthday to us.
You and me.
Yes. So I brought her a cookie because I'm poor right now.
Yay, cookie!
Yay, poor. You can find me at Run Mama Run 50 by 50. That's 50x50 on Instagram. You cannot find me on Facebook. It is a private account that I don't let.
Well, I have a private account too. I just have the other one.
Yeah. I just make my Instagram public. Because of my blog. You can also
which is super funny. You guys should read it.
I need to write another one.
You do. Well, you have something coming up.
I do have a run coming up
that I can't go to.
Yes, Cindy was supposed to be my running buddy, and she's like, her body's falling apart. So.
Yeah, I'm getting old.
So I'm running it by myself, and my mom's gonna drop me off at the top, and then when I get to the bottom, I'm gonna nurse Charlie. So.
It's all downhill.
It literally is all downhill. Mm-hmm. Which is why the fact that I didn't train for it is gonna be okay.
It'll be fine.
I really didn't train for this one.
It'll be
a great
You'll be able
blog,
to walk the next day, but it's fine.
And you can find my blog at run50by50.wordpress.com, I believe it is. I don't know my own website.
You should look into that.
Oh, well. You can find it. It's on WordPress. So I think that's it.
And that's it.
I think that's all. Coming up after this will be silicon.
And then I won't mess up silicon because I'll want to say silicon.
Yay.
Sulfur, so that'll be good.
So thank you so much. Stay curious. My name is Grace.
My name is Cindy.
And listen again. Subscribe.
That was scary. Smell.
That's what I was gonna say.
Well, obviously, because it smells like rotten eggs.
What is it?
What is it?
I don't know.
It's not sulfur, actually.
It's fire and brimstone.